We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DT India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. US Senate fails again to pass the funding bill. White House warns mass layoff. Trump says happy to work with Democrats on healthcare if shutdown ends. Macron's fifth prime minister quit hours after naming cabinet. Opposition demands president's resignation or snap polls. Macron gives Lono till Wednesday for talks. First day of indirect talks between Israel and Hamas over Trump's 20-point plan end in Egypt. Next round on Tuesday, marking 2 years since Hamas attack. Sixth edition of Global Fintech Fest to begin in Mumbai. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UK Prime Minister Starmer to address on October 9th. And on to the details now. The US Senate has once again failed to pass a spending budget, making it the fifth such time that would continue to keep the government in a state of shutdown. Now, both Democratic and Republican funding proposals failed to pass in the Senate on Monday, unable to reach the 60-vote threshold needed for approval. A Republican bill gathered 52 affirmative votes and 42 nays. Previously, the Democratic-led bill had 45 affirmative votes and 50 negative. 3/5 of the Senate were needed to approve the motions put forth. US President Donald Trump said he would be open to making a deal on subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Trump said he was happy to work with Democrats on healthcare policy, but the shutdown must end first.
Going on right now with the Democrats that could lead to very good things.
What kind of
and I'm talking about good things with regard to health care. Well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But we are speaking with the Democrats, and some very good things could happen with respect to health care. I'd like to see a deal made for great health care. Yeah, I want to see great health. I'm a Republican, but I want to see health care much more so than the Democrats.
Well, Trump had warned earlier that another stalemate could result in significant job losses. The White House on Monday backed off Trump's assertion that U.S. government employees were being laid off right now due to the shutdown, but warned that job losses could result if Congress does not restore federal funding. And U.S. President Donald Trump has formally authorized the deployment of 300 members of the Illinois National Guard to Chicago for 60 days. Now, according to a presidential memorandum released on Monday, the deployment of 300 members of the Illinois National Guard aims to protect the federal personnel and property in Illinois. In the memo, Trump said that the regular forces of the U.S. are not sufficient to ensure the laws are faithfully executed, including in Chicago. So according to the order, the National Guard will be activated for 60 days unless extended or withdrawn earlier at the discretion of the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. This is despite Illinois and Chicago filing a lawsuit aiming to stop Trump administration from sending hundreds of National Guard troops to Chicago. And Chicagoans are torn over the ongoing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement raids happening in and around Chicago, as well as President Trump's plans to deploy the National Guard. Now, Illinois launched a legal challenge on Monday to block Trump from deploying hundreds of federalized National Guard troops into the streets of Chicago. Chicago filed a lawsuit hours after a federal judge in Oregon on Sunday temporarily blocked Trump's administration from sending any National Guard troops to police Portland, Oregon. Chicago's lawsuit opens new tab is the fourth legal action targeting Trump's unprecedented use of soldiers to police U.S. cities, suppress protest and bolster domestic immigration enforcement. Now, courts have not yet reached a final decision in any of those cases, but judges in California and Oregon have made initial rulings that Trump likely overstepped his authority. And the White House said that it will appeal a recent court decision that challenges the federal government's deployment of National Guard troops in Portland, Oregon.
The president wants to ensure that our federal buildings and our assets are protected. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And ultimately, in the case in Los Angeles, that judge ruled in the Ninth Circuit, that panel of judges ruled that those troops could remain and that the president was well within his authority to do so. So we are appealing that decision. As you know, we expect a hearing on it pretty quickly. And we're very confident in the president's legal authority to do this. And we're very confident we will win on the merits of the law.
Well, French President Emmanuel Macron on Monday gave his outgoing Prime Minister time until Wednesday to hold last-ditch talks with other political parties to try to chart a path out of the crisis. Sébastien Lecornu shockingly stepped down on Monday, just 14 hours after naming his government line up. The resignation made him the third French PM to leave office since last December and fifth one in 2 years to announce resignation. It was not immediately clear what Lecornu's task would entail. France's constitution allows Macron to reappoint Lecornu as Prime Minister should he wish. Well, Macron gave Lecornu until Wednesday to hold meetings with political parties to try to chart a path out of the crisis. If Lecornu's bid to achieve stability by Wednesday fails, Macron has three options. One, he can appoint another Prime Minister. Second, he can once again dissolve the National Assembly. And thirdly, he can resign himself. Well, Lecornu's ministerial lineup had been fiercely criticized across the board by parties in the National Assembly, which threatened to vote it down. Now, the nomination of former Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire as Minister of the Armed Forces in particular seemed to be a sticking point for many political factions. For now, far-right and hard-left parties are urging Macron to call new snap parliamentary elections or quit. Well, France is experiencing continuous and unprecedented political instability for more than 12 months now, marked by a hung parliament, brief governments and widespread protests. Now, let's take a look at the ongoing political turmoil in the country. Well, in January 2024, Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne resigned after struggling to pass key reforms. In May 2024, unrest breaks out in the French territory of New Caledonia over controversial voting rights reforms. In June 2024, the far-right National Rally secures 31.5% of the vote in the European Parliament elections. President Macron dissolves the National Assembly and calls for snap legislative elections. Widespread protests erupt during the election campaign. Well, in July 2024, the legislative elections result in a hung parliament. Prime Minister Attal resigns, initiating a longer period with a caretaker government. In September 2024, Michel Barnier is appointed Prime Minister, but his government is toppled in December by a no-confidence vote over budget disputes. And in December 2024, Francois Bayrou is appointed Prime Minister, becoming the third person to hold the role within a year. Well, in January 2025, Bayrou's government survives no confidence motion, but his position remains fragile. In September 2025, Bayrou's government falls, sparking a political crisis. Now, in September 2025, Sébastien Lecornu is appointed the seventh Prime Minister of Macron's presidency. On October 6, 2025, Lecornu resigned just hours after appointing his new cabinet. And now let's take a look at what may happen next. Well, the deepening crisis will disrupt the 2026 budget process, raising the likelihood that emergency legislation will be needed to keep the government running. Under French law, the government has until October 7 to deliver a 2026 budget bill, although the constitution allows some flexibility until mid-month. But with so little time to appoint a new Prime Minister and cabinet, it is increasingly unlikely that Macron administration can deliver the bill on schedule. In that event, lawmakers would need to pass emergency stopgap legislation to authorize spending, taxation and borrowing from January 1st until a full budget is approved. Also, France resorted to such emergency measures last December. After then, Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government was ousted, invalidating his proposed 2025 budget. And European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde on Monday cautioned that any European Union decision to use frozen Russian state assets for Ukraine must strictly adhere to international law. Now, the EU is exploring ways to channel over 210 billion euros in immobilized Russian funds toward Ukraine's defense and reconstruction, but outright seizure remains illegal. Instead, Brussels is considering investing the assets in zero-coupon bonds guaranteed by EU governments to create a reparation loan for Kyiv. Now, Lagarde warned European lawmakers in Strasbourg that bypassing legal norms could undermine confidence in the euro and shake financial stability. With the frozen funds now stuck at Belgium's Euroclear after maturing, Lagarde insisted that any action must be collectively agreed and fully compliant with global legal standards. And the United Nations Cultural Agency selected former Egyptian Tourism and Antiquities Minister Khaled El-Anani as its new chief on Monday, handing him the keys to revive UNESCO's fortunes after the US withdrew from it for a second time. Now, El-Anani was up against Firmin Edouard Matoko of the Republic of Congo, but had been the favorite to win the secret ballot for a 4-year term, having launched his campaign early in April 2023. He had since built strong regional backing and international alliances. UNESCO's board, which represents 58 of the agency's 194 member states, elected him with 55 votes. Matako won 2 votes. The United States did not vote. The selection will now be put forward for approval to UNESCO members on November 6th. While outgoing chief Audrey Azoulay has worked to diversify funding sources, the UN Culture and Education Agency still receives about 8% of its budget from Washington. Now, once the US withdrawal takes effect at the end of 2026, that funding will be cut. And with just weeks to go before COP30, Belém is buzzing but not quite ready. While leaders are coming to Belém, yet the preparation seems to hang in the balance. Some buildings are still being built and places meant for guests are unfinished. Hotel prices have gone way up and many visitors are struggling to find rooms. The government says everything is on track, but people are worried. Brazil's President Lula says things will be fine, but the time running out, many wonder if Belém will be ready in time. And Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Tuesday. The talks between the leaders will focus on shared priorities for a new economic and security relationship. Now, Canada has not yet reached a broad trade deal with the Trump administration, unlike other major US trading partners, including the European Union. So far, Trump has maintained tariff exemptions on all goods compliant with an existing pact, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement agreed during Trump's first term. Also, USMCA revision talks are scheduled for next year, and Carney has said his team is focused on preserving a good deal for Canada, which also benefits the United States and Mexico. And still to come on India NewsHour. Aimed at rejecting foreign interference and expressing support for President Nicolas Maduro, Venezuelans hold a march in Caracas advocating peace. All medium and heavy-duty trucks imported into the United States will face a 25% tariff rate starting 1st of November. And Mid-Autumn Festival brings youth closer to the fading folk traditions. Stay with us for a quick glimpse. Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Lipakshi Quran, and moving on, delegations from Israel and Hamas held their first day of indirect negotiations in Egypt on Monday on a US-drafted peace plan. Now, the discussions were set to resume on Tuesday afternoon. As per the reports, both parties have agreed on most of the first phase terms, which include the release of the hostages and establishing a ceasefire. Now, the Israelis are led by top negotiator Ron Dermer, while Khalil al-Hayya leads the Hamas delegation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said Foreign Policy Advisor Ofer Falk would be present for Israel. The talks began with a meeting between Arab mediators and the Hamas delegation. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner were also expected to join the talks. Both Hamas and Israel have responded positively to Trump's proposal, but reaching an agreement on the details is said to be a huge task. Now, the plan envisages the disarmament of Hamas, which the terrorist group is unlikely to accept. It also provides for the gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, but Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to redeploy troops deep inside the territory while securing the release of hostages. Also, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters at the White House that he was pretty sure a peace deal was possible.
I have red lines. If certain things aren't met, we're not going to do it. But I think we're doing very well, and I think Hamas has been agreeing to things that are very important. I think we're going to have it soon. I think we're going to have a deal. It's a hard thing for me to say that when for years and years they've been trying to have a deal with Gaza. But, literally for centuries, okay, if you really think about it. But we're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Well, October 7th marks the second anniversary of Hamas' deadly attacks on Israel, when around 1,200 people were killed and 251 were taken hostage. That day, Hamas' attack sent a ripple effect throughout the world. It was the deadliest attack on the Jewish people in a single day since the Holocaust. It threw the world into chaos, and Israel's military response have changed the region's landscape. Now, the repercussions have contributed to the ouster of a regime in Syria, attack in Qatar, and a setback to the nuclear program in Iran. Also, the conflict has since caused a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. It also brought international attention and divided opinions on the nations choosing sides. At the same time, Jewish communities will hold low-profile commemorations of the October 7 attacks as anti-Semitic attacks continue to rise worldwide. Israel also launched October 7th website on massacre. The site, The Missing October 7th Files, presents original documents recovered by Israel security forces since the start of the conflict. Now, Israelis on the streets hope for a deal to secure the release of hostages, as there are 48 hostages still remaining in Gaza, 20 of whom are alive.
The hostages, I really can't believe it's been almost 2 years. It's been 2 years that they are not at home. All of the country, it's like all of our heart is not complete until they are home. In everything that we are doing, they are all the time in our mind, and I really hope that this agreement will actually happen and will bring everybody home to their families.
Relief. For me, I certainly was someone who I cried every single hostage release that we've had until now, and I think that this will finally be an end to a very dark chapter in our country's history.
And moving on, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned the Houthi rebels in Yemen for detaining 9 more United Nations workers and seizing UN assets in areas under their control. Now, the latest arrest brings the total number of UN staff arbitrarily detained since 2021 to 53, according to UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric. The UN warns these actions hinder the UN's ability to operate in Yemen and to deliver critical assistance. Also, the detentions follow earlier incidents in which Houthi forces captured 11 UN employees. The UN has since moved its top envoy from Sana'a to Aden and vowed to work relentlessly for the release of all detained personnel. Also, spokesperson Stephen Dujarric said that the United Nations would continue to work tirelessly through all available channels to secure the safe and immediate release of all arbitrarily detained personnel, as well as the return of UN agency officers and other assets. And moving on, amid rising tensions with Venezuela, U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday has called off efforts to reach a diplomatic agreement with Venezuela and told his special envoy Richard Grenell to stop all outreach. Earlier, Trump said U.S. forces hit another vessel allegedly carrying illegal drugs off the coast of Venezuela, adding that the U.S. would also start looking at drug trafficking occurring on the land. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeatedly alleged that the U.S. is hoping to drive him from power. And at the same time, President Nicolas Maduro said on Monday that Venezuela foiled a false flag operation by what is called local terrorists to plant explosives at the U.S. Embassy in Caracas and exasperate a dispute between the two countries over drug trafficking. Now, the statement came amid a strong U.S. military deployment in the Caribbean focused on combating drug trafficking.
Una operación típica de falsa bandera, pudiéramos llamar. Una operación típica de provocación para después armar el escándalo y utilizar el poder comunicacional a través de redes y medios para culpar al gobierno bolivariano y comenzar una escalada de enfrentamiento donde nadie va a preguntar cómo lo hizo, quién lo hizo, donde nadie va a escuchar a nadie, sino que se van a escuchar el repiqueteo de las ametralladoras y de los misiles. Así que era una acción de provocación.
Meanwhile, hundreds marched to the UN office on Monday in Caracas demanding respect for Venezuela's sovereignty and peace. Well, the political and social groups organized the march, which featured banners rejecting foreign interference and supporting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. In response, the U.S. assembled several warships in a naval buildup in international waters near Venezuela, allegedly to combat drug trafficking. And U.S. President Donald Trump said he had a productive phone call with Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, with both sides indicating plans for reciprocal visits soon. Trump noted that their brief encounter at the UN General Assembly in New York had set a positive tone, and he expressed optimism about deepening business and trade ties.
I had a great talk with the President of Brazil, who's a good man. I met him actually at the United Nations. So it was quite a day. That was a big day. But we met and we liked each other. And yeah, we had a great conversation. Yeah, we'll start doing business.
And are you considering traveling to Brazil for a COP?
At some point I would, and he's going to come here. We talked about that.
And Brazilian Vice President Geraldo Alckmin said on Monday that he hopes the good chemistry between Presidents Lula and Trump can diffuse rising trade tensions. Now, Lula has personally urged Trump to scrap the crippling 40% tariff and other punitive measures on Brazilian goods. The two leaders spoke for 30 minutes in what officials called a friendly call, agreeing to meet soon and even exchanging personal numbers, Alckmin added.
Mas foi muito boa a conversa, melhor até do que nós esperávamos, então estamos muito otimistas aí que a gente vai avançar. E o presidente Lula destacou a disposição do Brasil para o diálogo e para a negociação.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Monday that all medium and heavy-duty trucks imported into the United States will face a 25% tariff rate starting 1st of November. Now, Trump, in a social media post, said that all medium and heavy-duty trucks coming into the United States will be tariffed at the rate of 25% from 1st of November. This is a month-long delay from the October 1st start date, he vowed in an earlier social media post unveiling the new duty. Also, Trump last month had said heavy truck imports would face new duties on October 1st on national security grounds, saying the new tariffs were to protect manufacturers from unfair outside competition. While larger vehicles include everything from delivery trucks, garbage trucks, public utility trucks, transit, shuttle and school buses and tractor-trailer trucks, as well as semi-trucks and heavy-duty vocational vehicles. Under trade deals reached with Japan and the European Union earlier, the United States has agreed to 15% tariffs on light-duty vehicles, but it is not clear if they will face that rate for larger vehicles. And U.S. has lifted sanctions imposed on former Paraguayan President Horacio Cartes on Monday. Cartes announced that U.S. sanctions against him imposed 2 years ago over alleged corruption have been lifted. Now, the announcement came after the former president and his companies were removed from OFAC's list of specially designated nationals. In 2023, OFAC sanctioned Cartes for alleged widespread corruption and obstructing a transnational crime investigation to shield himself. He had consistently denied the accusations. Cartes, Paraguay's president from 2013 to 2018, leads the ruling Colorado Party and wields significant influence in the government. And Madagascar President Andry Rajoelina named Army General Rafin Fortunate Zavisambo as Prime Minister on Monday, a week after dissolving the government in response to ongoing protests over power and water shortages. Now, Zavisambo replaced Prime Minister Christian Netze, who was dismissed as part of the president's move. The general was the director of the military cabinet in the Prime Minister's office until his appointment. Zavisambo's top priority would be to restore electricity and water supply. Well, early on Monday, protesters returned to the streets in the nation for a third week of anti-government demonstrations. Rajoelina fired his cabinet last week, but many demonstrators are now demanding him to resign himself. Inspired by similar Gen Z marches in Kenya and Nepal, the protests are the largest wave of unrest in recent years. Rajoelina said in a speech on Friday that he was ready to listen to the protesters' grievances but ignored calls for his resignation. Well, Syria announced preliminary results of an indirect vote for a new parliament on Monday. Sunday's vote saw around 6,000 members of regional electoral colleges choosing candidates from pre-approved list, part of a process to produce nearly two-thirds of the new 210-seat body. President Ahmed al-Sharaa will later select the remaining third. Concerns have been raised about the centralized nature of the election and the suspension of voting in areas outside government control. The authorities cited security and political reasons for the suspensions, leaving 21 paramilitary seats vacant. Despite this, 6 women, 4 religious minorities and 6 ethnic minorities were elected as lawmakers. It remains unclear and uncertain when voting will take place in the excluded areas. And Indonesian rescuers wrapped up the search on Tuesday for victims trapped under the rubble of a collapsed boarding school in the province of East Java after retrieving more than 60 bodies. Grief and confusion gripped the small town of Sidoarjo last week after foundational failures caused the AI Kozini school to cave in on hundreds of people, mostly teenage boys, while they were at afternoon prayers. Most escaped rescuers had used excavators and cranes to lift large chunks of concrete. Digging through tunnels, they shouted out the names of victims presumed to be still alive. Police allege 2 levels were being added to the new 2-story building without a permit, leading to structural change and structural failure. This has triggered widespread anger over illegal construction in Indonesia. Well, young people at the Zoo Heritage Hub in Vietnam's Hanoi are reviving traditional Vietnamese culture through hands-on workshops. Now, during the Mid-Autumn Festival, traditional cultural activities are being revived with the aim to reconnect youth with fading folk traditions. Organizers hope to bring heritage into everyday life, not just preserve it in museums. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. India's UN envoy calls women peacekeepers, messengers of peace, highlights India's leadership on women, peace and security agenda. India's flagship marine safety drill held in Chennai, showcasing India's world-class oil spill preparedness. And it's a white winterland in Kashmir. Tourists rejoice. Fresh, heavy snowfall in Gulmarg, Baramulla.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. US Senate fails again to pass the funding bill. White House warns of mass layoff. Trump says happy to work with Democrats on healthcare if shutdown ends. Macron's 5th PM quit hours after naming cabinet. Opposition demands president's resignation or snap polls. Macron gives Lono till Wednesday for talks. First day of indirect talks between Israel and Hamas over Trump's 20-point plan end in Egypt. Next round on Tuesday, marking 2 years since Hamas attack. 6th edition of Global Fintech Fest to begin in Mumbai. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UK Prime Minister Starmer to address on October 9th. And moving on, the 6th edition of the Global Fintech Fest is all set to begin in Mumbai on Tuesday, based on the theme Empowering Finance for a Better World Powered by AI. The 3-day event will bring together global leaders, policymakers, central bankers, and innovators to explore the future of financial technology amidst the growing AI influence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the UK Minister Keir Starmer will deliver the keynote addresses and engage with industry experts, policymakers and innovators on Thursday. The fest will also host a large-scale fintech expo with over 400 exhibitors alongside hackathons, investment pitches, fintech awards and networking sessions. And India's permanent representative to the UN Ambassador Parvataneni Harish has described women peacekeepers as messengers of peace and outlined India's rich and pioneering contribution to the implementation of WPS agenda. While speaking at the UNSC Open Debate on Women, Peace and Security, the envoy asserted that the future of peacekeeping operations must acknowledge the crucial role of women peacekeepers in conflict resolution. He said that women play a critical role in addressing gender-based violence, being the messengers of peace.
Leadership in championing women peacekeepers is exemplified through the appointment of Dr. Kiran Bedi, the first woman officer of the Indian Police Service, as the first ever female police advisor and head of the United Nations Police Division in 2003. We believe that it is no longer a question of whether women can do peacekeeping, rather, it is whether peacekeeping can do without women. Most critically, they help address gender-based violence and ensure that peace processes reflect the needs and perspectives of all segments of society.
And now let's take you to New Delhi. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jai Shankar addressed the Trust and Safety India Festival a short while ago. India hosts the first ever Trust and Safety India Festival in New Delhi, and the 2-day festival marks landmark moment in the global digital safety landscape.
It's a great pleasure to join you all this morning as we commence the Trust and Safety Festival, TASI Festival. As a pre-summit event for the February 2026 AI Impact Summit, it kicks off a set of conversations that are of great interest both in India and to the world. I commend the Center for Social Research India and you, Dr. Ranjana Kumari ji, personally, for taking this initiative. Friends, in human history, the advancement of progress has been determined by the march of technology. Yet, that has not always been a linear path. The promise and the perils have always been two sides of the same coin. Choices made in the deployment and application decided the difference between empowerment and exploitation, between democratization and domination, and between partnership and polarization. Today, we are at the cusp of an immense change, and decisions made by us, individually and collectively, will help decide the fate of the foreseeable future. Now, if any of you think that this is an exaggeration, consider what is likely to happen in just the next few years. AI will transform our economies. It will change our work habits. It will create radically new health solutions. It will enhance educational access. It will improve efficiencies. It could even lead to a new lifestyle. The difference with the past is that this particular transformation that is going to come upon us, this will be all-pervasive and not just sectoral. It will impact every citizen in every corner of the world. New efficiencies and new possibilities will certainly emerge, but so too will new players and new power centers. For this very reason, we need to adopt a balanced approach to the governance of AI and to ensure that there are adequate guardrails in place to protect digital Nagriks. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi has noted, technology is a force for good, but only if humanity guides it. Friends, trust and safety are essential for the implementation of responsible AI. For a society like India, this means development of indigenous tools and frameworks, self-assessment protocols for innovators, and establishing relevant guidelines. Only then can we be assured that the development, deployment, use, and governance of AI is safe and accessible. India bears special responsibility because many other nations, especially those of the Global South, they look to us for inspiration. And certainly, in the case of the digital public infrastructure, today, what we have achieved in the last decade, if you see the scale of our delivery, the improvement in governance, the efficiencies with which we serve the public, I think it is already resonating across the world. As a foreign minister, when I go abroad, this is often the topic of conversation. And I can see very much this being extrapolated into the world of AI as well. Now, different societies have put different levels of emphasis on the benefits and on the risks of AI. Understandably, some of the narrative is influenced by those who have skin in the game. But at the end of the day, it is imperative that we take a sober and we take a balanced view. After all, concerns about bias, ethics, privacy, and vulnerability are well-founded, deriving from pre-existing experiences. We also need to take particular precaution against the danger of losing trust in institutions and practices that underpin our daily life. Already, we see an inclination to question the umpire or even the playing field when the results don't go in our favor. Maintaining I would argue even strengthening in the era of AI. Strengthening trust is therefore of utmost importance. Friends, encouraging a global discourse on AI is obviously essential. Indeed, every time a game-changing technology has appeared on the horizon, it has triggered off similar endeavors. But history is also witness to the reality that those exercises have not been easy. There is the obvious temptation to put narrow self-interest above collective good. And that is why we need to rise to this particular challenge, because what is at stake cannot be overstated. It is not just the ambitions of politics, but the personal interest of every citizen on this planet. Now, we in India, we have consistently advocated for global AI governance and the shaping of an international agenda. We have demonstrated this during our G20 presidency and strongly urged its usage for advancing sustainable development goals, while safeguarding trust, safety, fairness, and accountability. As a founding member of the Global Partnership on AI, we promoted the New Delhi declarations, which envisage responsible and inclusive AI. We participated in the AI summits in Bletchley Park and Seoul, and co-chaired the Paris AI Action Summit last year. The AI Impact Summit in 2026, with the focus obviously on impact, will take this forward. So let me conclude by saying this. This is an endeavor whose success depends on our ability to ensure multi-stakeholdership. And that is why the TASI festival today is important, because it sends out a strong, inclusive, and pro-people message on this critical issue. I thank the organizers once again for inviting me and wish your deliberations all success. Thank you very much.
All right, that was External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar addressing the Trust and Safety India Festival. And moving on, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said that India does not encourage cryptocurrencies that lack sovereign or asset backing. Now, he announced that India will introduce a digital currency backed by an RBI guarantee aimed at simplifying transactions and traceable transactions compared to traditional banking. The minister is on an official visit to Doha, Qatar, to co-chair the meeting of the India-Qatar Joint Commission on Economic and Commercial Cooperation, along with his Qatari counterpart, His Excellency Sheikh Faisal bin Thani bin Faisal Al Thani.
We have not been encouraging cryptocurrency which does not have sovereign backing or which is not backed by assets, say from the federal bank or local currency. So India has also announced that we'll be coming out with a digital currency which will be backed by Reserve Bank of India guarantee like currency. And our idea is that this will only make it easier to transact. It will also reduce the paper consumption and will be faster to transact than the banking system also. But it will also have traceability through blockchain. So only legal transactions can be done.
Well, on the sidelines of the Joint Commission, Minister held a series of high-level business meetings with senior Qatari dignitaries and corporate leaders. These interactions provided an opportunity to discuss avenues for greater investment flows, technology partnerships, and joint ventures between Indian and Qatari enterprises. Now, during his first visit to Qatar, Piyush Goyal addressed the vibrant Indian community, appreciating their role as a strong pillar of India-Qatar relations. Qatar ranks among India's key trading partners within the Gulf Cooperation Council, with bilateral trade totaling over 14.15 billion USD in 2024-25. Now reaffirming India's commitment to inclusivity, innovation and global cooperation, he urged the Indian diaspora to continue serving as an important bridge between the two nations and as key partners in realizing India's growth vision.
Together, Qatar and India will power the development of all of humanity. And that is the strength that you bring to the table. And I am very confident that the sincerity with which you contribute to Qatar's economy, the hard work that you put in, the assimilation of Indian people with the local community is your biggest strength. Together, when all of you represent India, you are the living bridge between Qatar and India.
Well, in a bid to prepare for tackling marine oil spill emergencies, India's premier biennial pollution response exercise, Netropol Rex X, was organized by the Indian Coast Guard on 5th and 6th of October. The large-scale exercise witnessed enthusiastic participation from a wide spectrum of stakeholders, including 40 foreign observers from 32 countries, representatives from central ministries, coastal state governments, major ports, oil handling agencies, and maritime organizations. Well, the technical sessions of the exercise featured insightful presentations on topics of current relevance, including nodal spills and their environmental impact, case studies on hazardous and noxious substances, post-spill monitoring and environmental impact assessments, shoreline cleanup, etc. And Mumbai's much anticipated Metro Line 3, the Aqua Line, is set to become fully operational, marking a major milestone in the city's transport infrastructure. The 33.5-kilometer corridor, developed by the Mumbai Metro Rail Corporation Limited at an estimated cost of 37,276 crore rupees, will be inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It will be Mumbai's first fully underground metro line and one of the city's most ambitious urban projects to date. Connecting the southern business district of Kaf Parade with the northern suburbs of Seeps and Array, the Aqua Line comprises 26 underground stations and one at-grade station. The new stretch adds 11 key stations, including Kaf Parade, Churchgate, Hutatma Chowk, CSMT, Girgaon and Mumbai Central, linking South Mumbai's business hubs, residential areas and heritage precincts. Once fully integrated with Mumbai's expanding metro network, the line is expected to serve nearly 15 lakh passengers daily, significantly reducing travel time across the city.
If you look at the entire project, which is now getting completed, and once the entire connectivity to this project is completed, almost 13 lakh passengers will travel on it per day. But to begin with, that number won't be there. Slowly it will get built up. There will be substantial reduction in the travel time from Kaf Parade to the last station, which is RAJVLR. You can travel just in 50 minutes. So that's a substantial reduction in travel time if you go by route.
Construction of the southern stretch posed considerable challenges due to South Mumbai's narrow roads, dense urban fabric and proximity to heritage structures. Despite these hurdles, the project represents a major step toward easing congestion and modernizing Mumbai's public transport network.
This particular section, which is getting inaugurated day after, that actually provides connectivity to the heritage district of Mumbai, and it is passing through areas like Girgaon, Kalbadevi, Grant Road, which are very, very thickly populated. So this one line, which provides very deep connectivity to South Mumbai, which is the peninsular part of the city, which otherwise has no that way public transport connectivity, it is now being provided by this line.
Mumbai commuters have welcomed the launch of the Aqua Line, saying it will greatly ease daily travel and offer a faster, more comfortable alternative to road congestion. The commute from Kaf Parade to the domestic airport will take just 45 minutes.
कफ परेड से लेके अपने महालक्ष्मी तक लोगों की वक्त को ध्यान में रखते हुए जो महाराष्ट्र सरकार ने जो ये नया कदम उठाया, जिससे नया डेवलपमेंट किया है, ये सराहनीय है।
सबके अच्छे के लिए ही है। जो अंडरग्राउंड जो पहले जो महालक्ष्मी अपना गिरगा वगैरह जो स्टेशन पे नहीं ट्रेनें जब नहीं रोक रही थी, अभी हमारे लिए बहुत सहूलियत की बात है।
मेट्रो की सुविधा हो गई है, अंडरग्राउंड से पूरी हो गई है, तो उसके वजह से एयरपोर्ट जाने के लिए नज़दीक काफ़ी इजी हो गया है। तो 1 घंटे के अंदर हम यहाँ से एयरपोर्ट पहुँच सकते हैं।
Designed with commuter comfort in mind, the Aqua Line offers women-only coaches, priority seating for senior citizens and persons with disabilities, as well as advanced CCTV surveillance for enhanced safety.
Mumbai is getting redefined, and commuters, passengers of all strata of societies will have an option now to leave their four-wheelers and travel smoothly in a more convenient way, and leaving the city more air to breathe. With camera person Aditya Kasare, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
And some global weather updates now. First up from India, the Indian Meteorological Department has forecasted continued rainfall with a yellow alert across several parts of the country for the next 2 to 3 days. The Met Department also issued yellow alert for Delhi following the overnight rainfall. The city is expected to experience a generally cloudy sky with several spells of light to moderate rain at many places. It also said temperatures in northwest India may drop by 4 to 5 degrees Celsius over the next 2 days, starting on October 8th, as thunderstorms accompanied by rain are likely in Chhattisgarh, Bihar and Jharkhand over the next 2-3 days. Due to the impact of the western disturbance, rain has resumed again in Rajasthan. IMD said the rainfall will decrease in Jodhpur and Bikaner on October 7th. According to the Meteorological Department, heavy rain is likely at isolated places in Arunachal Pradesh on October 9th and 10th, while Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura are likely to experience heavy rain for the next 5 days. An early spell of snowfall in Kashmir Valley's upper reaches, including tourist places, on Monday sparked a cheer among the tourists. Scores of tourists were seen enjoying at Gulmarg's meadow Kungdori in North Kashmir after the season's first snowfall. Kungdori was covered with a layer of snowfall in the past 24 hours. Authorities have instructed drivers to carry appropriate safety equipment, including snow skid chains. Well, floods in Nepal have taken death toll to 52, with 9 missing and 29 injured. Nepali army has rescued 12 individuals stranded due to incessant rainfall, while the search for 4 missing from Gosai Kund municipality is ongoing in dam site. Roads have been completely blocked at 19 locations across Koshi and Bagmati provinces. As in Koshi province, several sections of the Koshi Highway, Siddhicharan Highway, Midhill Highway and Mechi Highway have been obstructed by landslides. Meanwhile, the recent torrential rains have severely affected 32 hydropower projects across 10 districts, 17 projects in operation with a capacity of 180 megawatt and 15 hydropower projects with a capacity of 338 megawatts under construction have been affected by the floods. 15 out of 17 projects in operation in Illam have stopped generation. According to Independent Power Producers Association of Nepal, it may take some time to get details of the damage to hydroelectric power plants due to floods. In Vietnam, torrential rains triggered by Typhoon Matmo flooded parts of Hanoi on Tuesday, but latest in a series of deluges that have inundated the Vietnamese capital over the past month. Heavy downpours flooded major roads, leaving vehicles stranded and forcing residents to wade through calf-deep water. Several schools in the capital closed or shifted to online teaching, while several flights from and to Noi Bai International Airport have been delayed or rescheduled. And now to some sports news now. England will face Bangladesh in the ongoing Women's World Cup in Northeast India's Guwahati today. Bangladesh women are currently placed at the 3rd position on points table with 1 win to their credit, while England women are placed at the 1st position on points table with 1 win to their credit. Now, despite qualifying for back-to-back one-day international World Cups in 2022 and now in 2025, Bangladesh have faced England only once in the format, and that too in the previous edition. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India NewsHour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India NewsHour.